Nobody knew his name yet, but they knew his face because he was the guy refilling their breadsticks at Red Lobster. Full shifts. Then he'd go home to his mother's house in Queens and sew hats until he couldn't keep his eyes open. Then he'd wake up and do it again. He wasn't waiting for permission. He wasn't waiting for the right moment. He was just building, quietly and relentlessly, while everyone around him thought he was out of his mind. All the big brands passed on him, more than once. Didn't matter. He had one thing they couldn't see. He knew exactly what he was building, and he wasn't going to stop until it was built. It was hustle season, and he was going to win it. I'm Joe Downs. With me is Peter Swain. We're just a couple of successful idiots using AI to simplify our lives and optimize our businesses. Peter, before I ask you a false question here, want to take a guess who I'm talking about?
Hats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go for the guy that invented black clover.
That's a good guess, but no. It's Damon John.
Damon John.
And who knew? Red Lobster. Just another story of an entrepreneur who just is relentless and stays after it. All right, and we're going to talk about why in a second here. Peter, true or false? The British approach to a hustle season is to schedule it for after tea, before supper, and never during Wimbledon.
100%. And also avoid the Football World Cup. The actual thing that's football, the one you play with your feet, not the football that you play with your hands.
Oh, we kick a little in football.
A little.
A little.
We also have hands in football. A little.
A little. Peter, I suspect that what we're about to talk about today is going to cause some ripples around the dinner table. Not in an overwhelming, like, I don't think any fights well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe some fights will break out. But I think it's important to give our listener permission to stop apologizing for the ones that are working as hard as they're working. And I think they're going to feel seen for it. And then we're going to talk about how to make sure the thing you're sprinting to build, like Damon, actually becomes an asset, not another job. And that's it. And this actually hits very close to home for me in a lot of ways, like every note right now. Because I'm going to be honest with, well, Peter, you know this, but I'm going to be honest with everybody else. I've been up till most nights till 1 o'clock in the morning. The last several months, I'd say 6 months, building Storage Moguls, the website, platform, content, curriculum, sales systems, email campaigns, ebooks, podcasts, deep dives, webinars, all of it simultaneously while running the Belrose Group, which still owns and operates 13 storage facilities with 2 in development and 3 more under contract to buy, and always looking for more. And then on top of that, I'm an active partner in a distressed debt company called U.S. Mortgage Resolution. And normally that doesn't require much of me, but as you know, Peter, of late it's been a lot. It's been taxing. I also have this podcast each week to prepare for, as well as a YouTube series where I release a video every day on storage, and then also the Storage Moguls podcast. And there's a part of me, even with all that, that's been waiting for someone to say it's okay, because I have the self-doubt about it as well, that this is the right thing to be doing right now. And I don't get that. I don't get that from anybody. I get the opposite, actually. I get you're doing too much, you work too hard, etc. Which, when you are working that hard and that much, that's the last thing you want to hear.
100%.
Because hearing that and then having to defend and explain it, why you're doing it, is exhausting in and of itself. So I stumbled upon an article from Cody Sanchez, a post, I should say, about not apologizing for chasing money. And it obviously resonated with me. And this is the highlights of it, and we get into it. She basically said, if you're out there hustling, don't apologize for it. It's hard to change the world when you're broke. You can find a work-life balance when you can, I love this, when you can afford a life. And that spoke to me, especially in the dawn of AI. Though there's a danger in the position I'm taking here as well, which I'll bring up later. But first, I want to be clear. She wasn't glorifying burnout, and I'm not either. What she's naming is a season. And the reason it hit me is because I could never quantify or label it like that. All I keep saying is it's temporary, or there's a light at the end of the tunnel, the same nonsense, you know what I mean? So that's what hit me about this. It was the validation with a permission slip and some PR talking points to boot. For the Storage Moguls launch and leveling off, I think I know exactly what the end of my hustle season looks like. It's not someday. I sort of know the milestone. I shouldn't say exactly. I sort of know what it looks like. And I and others could use the help, Peter, of identifying that. Can you walk us through what actually separates a productive hustle season from just grinding forever, and how we can use AI to help us not only get to the end of that hustle season, but to also keep us in check along the way?
Wow, this one cuts deep for me as well.
I thought it might.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love to think about is nothing extraordinary ever got built by somebody doing 9 to 5. Ever. In the history of ever. And you'll see these wonderful founders go, yeah, you should respect this, and you should meditate, and you should always wake up early in the morning and go for a run and breathe before you do anything. And it's like, okay, curiously, 4 years ago when you were building a blank here, did you do any of that? And their answer is, well, no. It's like, okay.
Right.
But you definitely think I should, but if I look at Disney and Musk and Steve Jobs and Lululemon and Damon John, I look at any example of anyone that's built something meaningful, they've done it the unhealthy way. Because I was offered the phrase a while ago, which I love, strategic imbalance.
Yeah, well, that kind of plays into this, I think.
Exactly. Forget work-life balance. It's actually more about imbalance at the right time.
Yeah.
Because also the thing we get that entrepreneurs don't is, I'm just going to take my family to Disney for a month. And we get that, which is pretty awesome and amazing. We get to be unbalanced. We get to stack life over here sometimes and stack work over here sometimes as well. And we get to do great stuff. But you're absolutely right. The amount of times you find yourself apologizing to people or trying to explain it or justify it to people. And the most amazing thing about relationships is making sure you're there to pick somebody up if and when they do fail, which judgment doesn't help that. Because then when the person does reach the bottom of the barrel, if that happens, they look around and there's nobody there, or they don't feel there's anybody there. So it's actually better with someone like you or me, just go, hey, I hope you're okay. Can I help at all? And watch us do our stupid crap so that when we do go, I really need some help, you remember the people that stood by you instead of judging you and trying to assess and trying to understand. So I 100% get it. And I think this is such an important subject. We're going to introduce the listener today, Joe, to the concept of custom instructions and good custom instructions, because I think that's the answer to your question.
Okay. Custom instructions for life? This is for life? This is for...
Well, as in AI, as in life, or whatever that phrase is now.
I haven't heard it.
Oh, maybe I just made it up. Hashtag, I own it.
There you go.
So here's the thing. What you're essentially referring to is now a different mode of AI. So we've got proactive AI, reactive, as in I use it, I press the keys, it does a thing. And almost all the shows we spoke about are that. But that still requires you to remember to press the keys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all humans are self-confirming bias machines. They're called blind spots because you can't see them. So people have said, I just want to see my blind spots. You can't. That's why they're called blind spots. So you're never going to remember, if I was to give the listener an active set of prompts to use, they're never going to remember to use them, because the times when they need to use them are the times when they're doing the thing that they shouldn't be doing. So here's what I want them to do. So if you go to, say, Claude, ChatGPT, it's a similar journey. You go to settings, personalization, and there'll be a big box that says, how do you want Claude to act? Or in ChatGPT's case, what do you think ChatGPT should know about you? I think of the two big boxes. Technically speaking, this is what's called the system prompt, not the user prompt. So the user prompt is what you type in. When you type into ChatGPT or Claude, that is your prompt, the user prompt. But there is another prompt that is also sent at the same time, and that's called the system prompt. Okay.
And the system prompt is what you're programming, what you just said a second
in these
ago?
Custom instructions.
Okay, so
this is true enough for the people that are listening.
Okay.
It's much more complicated as to how it takes that, it crunches it, condenses it, takes previous information, yada, yada, yada. But if we can just accept an untruth that's truthful enough, what's in that customization box is also getting sent at the same time as whatever you send through. Okay. So these system prompts and user prompts go together. So here's what I would offer people. One of my instructions in my system prompt is only ever give me whole life advice. You must find a solution that works for my health, my wealth, my family, and my business. You can never give me a solution to a problem that only satisfies a few of these criteria.
So let me pause you there. I think I know what you're saying. I want to say it so that the listener understands. Your system prompt will distill it down to that simple. Only give me whole life advice. Let's just say that's all it was. So that every time you have a user prompt, I think that's what you called it, right? When you input your user prompt and hit enter, the response you get back is going to be in a wrapper of whole life advice. Is that
correct? Okay. So let me give you an EG. Let's say I sit with Claude today and say, I need to add $1,000 cash flow in the next 15 days. How do I do that? If you do not have what I just said in the instructions, it's going to say something like, find 100 people in your existing list, call them, message them, sell them something one-on-one. $30,000 with a $500 product means you need to make 60 sales. 60 sales means you need to reach out to 500 people. Yeah? Except that is going to impact my health because that's sedentary. They're sitting on my desk, hunched over. That doesn't satisfy my health goals. It would push me to work during the evenings, which would negate my family time. And it would cripple my leadership of my teams. So what would be better? What would be better is to find 2 or 3 high-level people in my existing audience, get somebody on my team to research those people, and then schedule calls with them whilst I go for a walk.
So here's what let me break this down into like Waze or GPS. You know how you put in an address and it gives you 3 routes? The fastest, most direct, whether, I don't know about over in the UK, but I don't even think it offers this anymore. Or it's a function of
avoid
Waze,
tolls.
Avoid tolls is one, right? Avoid highways. So your system prompt is the avoid tolls, avoid highways, or let's just go with those. But your user prompt is this is where I want to get to. So without any direction, Waze is going to send me the fastest way. But if Waze knows, hey, I don't have an easy pass, I have to avoid tolls, which is what you're saying. I can't be sedentary. I need to be up and about. So yeah, that's the fastest way to make 15 grand or whatever the number you said is. But that's not the way I can do it. That's the same as telling Waze to avoid tolls or highways. That is fascinating.
AI is a very smart, dumb missile. You're the one that's instructing it. So if you're like, how do I make storage mobiles into a $5 million business in the next 6 months? It's going to answer the question.
All I have to do is things I can't physically do.
But it's gonna not factor in the fact that you've got your daughter's looking, choosing a university, and this is probably a period of your life that you want to spend a bit of time with her because this doesn't happen again.
Yep.
This is it. This 3-4 months before she goes away is it. So that's probably important. It also means that your wife might need more of your time and attention, or vice versa during this time. This is my point of whether you have a divine reference in your life or not, everybody, I think, accepts that this is our one go-around on this world. So achieving the thing you want to achieve in the way you want to achieve it, to me, should be a non-negotiable for people.
Here's what it is, Peter. It's a life coach filter. The system prompt is a life coach filter. Because if you were having that conversation, if every day you woke up and you got on the phone with your life coach, if you have one, and said, hey, this is what I have to do today to move this forward, they would push back in certain areas and go, but you told me, you want to make all of your son's lacrosse games. You don't want to miss them, which is without this system prompt, that's one of my, it's up here in my head, but that's one of my own life coach filters, right? So he would say, well, then you can't do it this way. You can't schedule meetings at 3:00 in the afternoon because you're going to be driving to your son's lacrosse game. So, no, that's so fascinating. So back to
So the reason I want people to do this is
Yeah.
when they're in that hustle season, in my experience, it's when you whore yourself accidentally far too many times. You either get addicted to the grind of it, because that's now the new working model, and there's a bit of like, almost a bit of victim status to it, of like, yeah, look at me, I'm working so hard. Or you start on the completely on the opposite side, just as dangerous, you start doing things you wouldn't normally do to earn the money to afford to do the thing. Your boundaries get weak, I guess, on both sides. Instead of going, no, I said I'm going to do this for 200 days. I said what I'm going to do is smile at people in Red Lobster whilst I sew hats in the evening. And I plan to do that for 300 days so I can launch X. So the moments when you go, I think I'm about to throw it in, or this person just offered me a sponsorship for 2K, should I say yes? If you look at custom instructions, I love the language of it, that life coach filter, so that when you're asking it the question, it's going, no, that isn't what you said you wanted. So are we updating? Because I'm guessing your life coach and me have similar conversations like, you told me you wanted X. So is that still true? If it's not, fantastic. You can change your mind. I'm not holding you to an old standard if the old standard isn't the new standard. But I need to be the dick that reminds you that you said that this is the standard.
And that's what a life coach would do.
100%. And AI can do that for you 24/7, 365 for the other 120 hours of the week that you're not on the phone with a life coach.
I think I need an AI life coach. I've never had a life coach, but now I think I can have one.
And honestly, it's one of my biggest use cases of I'm sitting there and saying, hey, so I'm looking at doing this. We had a conversation recently about a commercial thing. And that came from a conversation I had with AI. I'm like, I'm conflicted here. I've got this and I've got this.
Yeah.
Which way do I go? And it literally said, you know who you are. I'm like, yeah, I do know who I am. I do. I said, I'm secret option C guy. So help me find secret option C that achieves my goals, lets me sleep at night. I want everything. I never want to use the word or. I want to use the word and. I want that and that. I want my health and the money and the family and the business and the contribution and the growth. And I want something to help me think all the way through to the end of that and find the and, not the or. No sacrifice. Take all of it. How do you get all of it? I think I've driven you to speechless there. That's pretty good.
I don't know. I'm at a path, a divergence in the path in the woods here, and I'm trying to decide which one.
Well, for example, this morning, we had to do some footage for social media. A 30-second conversation with Jet around the fact that I wanted to spend time with Liz. I needed to eat food because I'm about to do 4 hours live today. So if I don't eat in the morning, I end up making some really silly food decisions later on in the day, which has already been tracked with AI. So AI knows that, hey, if Pete doesn't have a good breakfast on Thursdays, we're in trouble. Because what I'll do is walk in halfway through one of the live shows and just ram chocolate, biscuit, anything, I need food. So the solution was go out to breakfast with Liz and shoot the content whilst we're talking, which is check social media content, check time with my wife, check food eaten. It was a triple win. It solved all the problems that all of the things I was trying to solve at the same time. And it doesn't sound that obvious, but at the time when I was facing down hungry, haven't spent time with my wife, and the team saying, we need this footage because we've got an edit schedule over the next 3 days, I was about to cancel the time with Liz, cancel breakfast, and shoot the content. That was my gut reaction. And I think loads of people do that.
So this kind of plays into what I wasn't sure I was going to go down this path, but I did tease it. So one of the dangers that I found with AI, and I'm pretty sure I'm living it right now and calling it my hustle season, is, and this is going to be, if you're an entrepreneur who feeds off of what AI is allowing you to do, right? So it's like a drug a little bit, right? In fact, I used to joke with people like, be careful. People, when I was introducing them to AI, I'm like, be careful. It's addictive. That can lead to, and has probably, if I'm being honest, it's led to me doing maybe even more than I should in the hustle season, trying to take on too much. Now, I've caught myself recently and backed off a few things. I was going to ask you, how does somebody handle that? But I think the answer is in that life coach AI, the life coach filter in the system prompt. Because to your point a second ago, I think there is an or, but not in the context that it's a never, right? So there are certain things I want to do. When my hustle season for Storage Moguls, for instance, is over, I do finally want to launch. I don't know if I want to launch another podcast, but there is something else I want to do that I've been putting off. So that's the or right now. I was going to try to tackle it. It has to do with podcasts, but I was going to try to tackle it. And I had to stop my own self and say, what are you doing? There's just aren't enough hours in the day. And it was starting to creep in on sleep for the most part, but personal time as well. So I think there's an or, but it's not a never or. And your point, I'm not trying to diminish at all, is you don't want to have to make life choices of this or that and never both. You can have both, but the sequential order of them sometimes matters, and that's kind of what you started the show with.
I think we're on the same path. That there's prioritization of tasks and actions and projects, but I never within the silo of business or within the silo of money or within the silo of. But I never want to have to choose to what am I going to prioritize, my family or my wife?
Oh yeah, no.
My business or my wife, my money or my kids? Because up until AI, those were the choices. Am I going to make money or am I going to be a good dad?
That's a great point.
The sentence that haunted me for 5 years, and it literally took me 5 years to get my head out of and get around this, was when we first had Olivia, was what am I going to lose at today? And it's a horrible mindset, but it genuinely is where I was. Up until having Olivia, honestly, me and Liz's life revolved around me. I would work 18 hours a day, 16 hours a day, and she would find ways to make everything else in our world work. So I never really had to sacrifice. It was always, everything in our world was there to serve me doing what I was doing, which isn't, in retrospect, wasn't very healthy. Or thanks, Liz, by the way, for doing all that for me. Olivia comes around, and I'm no longer the most important person in our family. Olivia is. And I'm not even second, because in my head, her mum is more important to her than I am to her. And my business, well, that's not even there. So this thought crept in of like, what am I going to lose at today? Because I can't win on all fronts at the same time. And it was purely a mindset issue. And since I've got my head and hands around AI, I don't feel that way anymore. Of like, okay, what am I going to... The capacity I have to get stuff done is insane.
And that's what I was talking about. And that becomes addictive. Because yes. I'm doing today 5 times what I did before I really embraced AI.
And you're still the block to not doing 12 times more.
I'm sure.
AI is just sitting there going, put me in, coach.
I know. Well, I'm learning. Well, you got to learn. Learning how to use it is a business in and of itself.
No, but I'm saying all humans, not you as an individual.
Yeah.
Like, somebody asked me how many tokens I spent yesterday on Claude Code, and the answer was 16 million. And I was like, yeah, I took an hour for lunch. I should have scheduled it to do something whilst I went and ate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm sure I'm using a tiny fraction of what I could be using. But what I was trying to get at is, it's because it's addictive. You can take on so many more projects and then find yourself unwittingly in a grind. Multiple grinds, 5x the grinds that you were in before. But from a human personal standpoint, still a grind, just five times more productive. And I don't want to knock that, because that's partly the goal here. If we've established what? And that's the milestone, right? So how do we know when hustle season ends? How does AI help us establish what that looks like? And what kind of check-ins should we set up along the way? Because I've heard you complain about it, and I've gone down the rabbit hole too, especially with Claude, our favorite. But it can take you down rabbit holes and in directions that are amazing, but we're not on the original road, right?
That's also my custom instructions, by the way.
Okay, but all of a sudden we're sightseeing,
Yeah,
and they're all it's all interesting.
And now we're
fun.
working out how to do an apparel brand. It's like, what? No, I don't need to do t-shirts. I need to do storage moguls, not t-shirts. Shut up.
Right.
You're an hour later.
So what? How do we use AI to define what the end of the hustle season looks like? Because that is the goal. Because that's the whole reason we're doing all this. And then what are some check-ins along the way?
I'd like to offer as a redefinition first, because I don't think it's binary. I don't think hustle season ever ends. I think it changes and adapts and evolves. So I think even setting the question up as on Friday we are, on Saturday we aren't, that doesn't work for me.
Okay.
A mentor of mine once told me, nobody ever climbs Everest, everybody dies. But there are lots of people that went to Base Camp 1, and there are a few people that went from Base Camp 1 to Base Camp 2, and there are people that go from Base Camp 2 to Base Camp 3, and there are people that then finally summit Everest. But nobody just tries to climb Everest. That's not the way it works. If you do this, if you want to go and climb Everest, I don't think it's mandatory, but I think it's almost the way it's done is there are people that just go to Base Camp 1 and then come back. And they'll do that 3 years in a row. And then they'll go to Base Camp 2, and then they'll come back. The process of, you don't go and climb Everest on your first year. It's a multi-phase project. So instead of saying, when does hustle season beginning and end, I was like, I think it might be more useful to think about what's the first milestone. Like, at what point do I know I've achieved something? Which I think you said with check-ins, but I would like us to use that kind of language. And I would just have a conversation with AI of well, what would be the first mark that I could really call this a success? Would it be X units sold, or would it be X recurring revenue? What would be the thing? And it's really quite important from a psychological perspective to celebrate. And so what is the celebration that happens? Is it buying a new TV, or is it going to a sports event, or is it going away with the family? What is the mark in the sand that gets me here? And the reason I think that's such a powerful exercise is because walking back from that with AI. So if I was doing, let's take storage moguls. So if I was doing $30K a month, what is the most likely split of revenue? Number one. And number two, what would I have had to have got done in order for that to happen? Who would I have to have on the team? What resources would I need? What things would I need to have done? So AI now is fantastic at saying, so you need a storage, you need the podcast done, and the podcast needs to have this many followers with this much conversion rate, and you need to have this done with that, and this done with this. It's great. So now not only do we know that milestone and what it looks like, we also know what we would have actually had to do in order to reach that milestone. Now we've got this beautiful framing for the guardrails for the life coach, for our life coach filter, to say, okay, this is what I'm building. This is what it looks like. This is when I want to achieve it by. So if I now tell you tomorrow that I'm about to do XYZ, I'm about to go on a TV show. Joe gets invited to launch Storage Moguls on a local TV news network. The life coach should turn around and say, no, because that wasn't on the plan. That isn't what we said we're going to do. Now, Joe, as the discerning human, should be willing to go, no, we are going to do that because it's Good Morning America. It's going out to 28 million people. So shut up. I could never have planned for this, but it's coming up, so I'm going to take it anyway. But forcing you to argue your new assumptions is exactly what a life coach does. Of going, no, you didn't say you're going to do that. You said you're going to do this. So why are we now doing that, not this? Because you never knew that was even a possibility.
It really is we're saying life coach, and it's really like entrepreneur coach, because entrepreneur is life and business.
I always called it be Robin to my Batman. The hero of the story doesn't exist without the sidekick. And to me, Jet has always kind of had that very interesting role as a superpower, so that I can turn around on calls and say, yeah, I'll write those 3 sequences. And before I've even finished on the call, I've alt-tabbed and say, did you just get that? And she's gone, yep, on it. Great. And away she goes.
So milestones. So not check-ins. You wanna ideate to get to milestones.
Well, I just don't think hustle season is ever going to end.
No, for the entrepreneur,
saying
it's
that
never
Damon
going to.
John doesn't hustle now is
I know.
is not true.
No, but that was hustle season for a launch, right? That was so he could launch.
Yeah, but it's
Fubu.
just going to change into a different form of hustle. I'm not trying to be semantic or pedantic for the sake of it. I think it's our brain responds to the type of questions we ask. And if somebody is out there going, when is this going to end? The answer is it isn't. It isn't. It's going to morph and it's going to look different. And this season, sure, this season is going to end, but there'll be another season replaced quickly thereafter.
Let me stay with sports here and give you an analogy because I'm going to push back a little bit here, but we're going to agree, I think. I understand what you're saying because my wife talks about retirement sometimes. I don't know what that word means to you, but it doesn't mean anything to me. I want to live financially free to continue to do the hustle things that I do because that's what interests me, right? So I agree with you. It's never, Joe Down's hustle life is never going to end because I'm not going to sit still. I love golf. I don't know that I could play it 7 days a week for the rest of my life unless I was getting paid. Like the guys at Aronimink right now on the PGA Tour.
Rabbit hole, come back.
Maybe you could talk me into it. But I do want to be able to play golf at my leisure. I do want to wake up and say, I think I'll do this today. When I say, bringing this back to sports, when I say hustle season, you're right, Damon John is hustling, but he's hustling at a different level and he's hustling in a different league. Right? So let's take your, let's whatever you got, champions, whatever you do over there. Right, with relegation, and you've got your multiple leagues. Right, what's the bottom league?
Well, no, you can. Let's talk about the up. I mean, there isn't really a bottom league. No, it carries on going down.
But that's the perfect example. Actually, I was about to compliment you guys. So we're all at different stages in life. Some people are 9 to 5, and they have a side hustle, and they're trying. The reason they have a side hustle is to try to get rid of the 9 to 5 and become the entrepreneur and start to be able to go to their kids' sports games that start at 3:30 in the afternoon, right? Most people can't make those. So, but that's one level of hustle. Then when you get through that, you quit your job, now you're doing what you're doing. Like, to me, that's successful, but that person isn't going to stop, and that's your point. The hustle never ends because once you get a taste of it and you know what you can accomplish and how, especially with AI, how much 3, 5, 10x you can accomplish, then you get a taste of that. You're gonna continue to grow in that way, and I would call that growth, right? But in each of those leagues, you've got these sprints, right? Well, what is my next? Damon John sold Fubu, or I don't know what he did, but maybe he still owns a piece of it. But and then I don't know what he did in between. But Shark Tank is another hustle, and then Shark Tank leads him to. He gets to pick his next hustle, right? So there's these iterations of hustles, but even within them, and you nailed it with the life filter, the system prompt, but you got to use AI for it. But even within that, you have to define it all. And I'm not, no point did any of those hustles, or even if you stack hustles, was I suggesting it affects your personal life. Although Cody Sanchez's point is, it does at first, because you have to build a life. So there's that start. You got to start somewhere, and then from there, I think it starts to introduce options.
I just don't know how much I agree with Cody on this one, because I spent a lot of time in Tony Robbins' world, and he does this whole thing about hands up in here if you'd like a Ferrari. Like, everybody puts their hands up. So, okay, why do you want the Ferrari? And the end conclusion is, you don't actually want the Ferrari, you want the feeling the Ferrari gives you. And then he's like, great, so why don't you just choose to have that feeling now? And it's and he does obviously a better version of this for me, because that's what he's paid to do. But the other day, Liz and I walked to the local shops and left our phones behind and just hung out for 15 minutes and laughed and played. Now, was it Disney or Euros or first-class flights? No. But it was 15 minutes together and it was fun. And whilst I do agree with Cody on this, I'm also offering everybody the option to remember that with a bit more creativity, you can have it all. You know how many times that Sam and Olivia have been given a laptop so that they can work with daddy? and they sit and yam the keys, like, because they can't. I mean, this is when they're like 2, and then they would show me what they've done. Like, great job, because I was looking after kids, but I had stuff I needed to get done at work, so the kids worked with me. You know that I do the trading card business, and I do the trading card business so they can sell cards on eBay whilst I'm doing the stuff I need to do. And I'm not holding myself up as the paradigm of greatness because I've got so much to work on. But there are so many ways if you force yourself not to compromise and go, no, I'm going to go away on holiday while I'm broke. Fantastic. Then you're going to get a tent 30 miles away that you're going to buy on Facebook Marketplace for $5. But you should still go and hang out next to a lake for 3 days. You don't need the $1 million. Everything gets better, as you said, as you level up, the quality of each of those things get better. But the core of it is good food, good company, and good times. If you got those 3, it really doesn't matter whether it's a Michelin-star restaurant or baked beans over a fireplace on a camp. And I think AI can help people find their version of that and world instead of an all world.
I couldn't agree more. And I've been where you were with the kids. Mine are a little older than yours, you know that. And I went from I can't play with you because I'm working, which is just the worst feeling in the world, to let's figure out how to do this together. And I got to tell you, last night I got a Facebook request or suggestion to friend or follow, whatever it is, my son Deegan's app that he's launching. The high school athlete, trainer, nutrition app.
So cool.
Called Commit. And I looked at my phone and there it is staring at me. I'm like, wow. And I've been working, as you know, with him on that.
Congratulations.
But it was really AI. Obviously, he's doing the heavy lift, but it's all the ideating back and forth and this and that. And it was just wild. It was a very, very proud moment. But also, to your point, a moment born out of, hey, we worked on this together, not...
That's freaking cool. That's so cool.
Sorry, I don't have time for you,
And this is, we come back to this core belief I have that what if AI can actually make us better at being human? Not take away our humanity, not strip us of our humanity, but offer us the opportunity to take your son, who was obviously entrepreneurial, but would never have gone through the X years to learn how to do all the coding and JavaScript and the and he's like, well, I've got this cool idea. Okay, well, this thing can build it. Like, that's insane.
I said it a bunch of times recently. It used to be if you dream it, you could build it, and that was a lie. Now it's literally very possible. It's never been more possible for us as adults, as entrepreneurs, for kids who are now having ideas and you know what? It's off topic here, but even if those ideas that these kids have that they ideate with AI don't pan out, never go anywhere, the fact that they were having that exercise is what could be more beneficial than that. Just the the experience they got going back and forth and maybe finding out it wasn't a good idea or was going to be too hard or not that plausible. Just the fact that they had the initiative, they had the entitlement, the empowerment to have that conversation with AI about potentially doing something. I mean, the lesson, they're getting more out of that than school. I hate to say it that way.
Couldn't agree more. Hey, for anyone that listens to this episode, I don't know why I feel the need to say this, Joe, but for anyone that listens to this that needs to hear this, let me just say, this sucks. You are not alone. This too shall pass. Like, if you're in that middle of that real deep grind and people are being judgmental and not supporting, it is a really lonely, horrible, terrible, shitty place. And just because we're not in the room with you, we're in the room with you. It's good. You got it. You'll be fine. Don't worry. Get AI. Tell it to slap you around the face every so often. You'll be good.
And to add that was beautiful. Thank you. But to add to that, set up that system prompt, that life/business coach, and just tell it. It's almost like, I'll take a shot at, was it millennials that were the most entitled generation? Act like a millennial. Just tell it what your wishes, your dreams, your desires. I don't want to work between 6 and 6:30 because I got to watch Wapner or Jeopardy or whatever's on at that time.
Yeah, I added a new one the other week that if anyone on my team books a meeting between 6 and 8, Jet now cancels it.
There you go.
Like, she just cancels it and
you're
replies
guarding
back
your
saying,
time.
yeah, because 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. is when I get to spend time with my kids.
Right. And if you don't have, sometimes you even need that reminder, right? Now, in this case...
it was against myself, 100%.
Yeah, in this case...
I had allowed people to put those meetings in.
There
So
you go.
now
Yeah.
I looked at next week and I went, I'm literally not going to see my kids next week.
Yeah. So...
It doesn't work.
That's a great rule to just keep your own self in check, because we're human and we will go, oh, but that's an important meeting, so I got to do it. And because
Joe, that was where it started, and I didn't manage to land the plane properly. That's why it has to be a system prompt, because you will break your own rules. You know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You'll move by a degree and a degree and a degree and a degree. And if you're in hustle season, you get more and more sleep deprived, which means your decision-making capability goes down by the day. So you actually end up walking away from your North Star more every day. And then you can look back over 6 months and go, I've achieved nothing. I'm nowhere nearer to the goals I was than 6 months ago. Because I hoard myself along the way with all these tiny little decisions. And that's why the system prompt, just stepping in and going, nope, wait, stop there, works so well.
I have a feeling if I had used that, so I'm guilty of not using it as much as I should, and now I'm going to make sure I do. I think I have too much on my plate right now, if I'm being honest. But I also know I can get to the end of the sprint, because as I said in the beginning, I know at the launch of Storage Moguls, I know what will end once it's not just launched, but, you know, we've worked out the kinks for a couple months, right? Once it levels off, I know I'm going to get a lot of my life back. My PM to 1 a.m. life, for instance. I'm not actually going to refill that with more hustle. I actually want that back.
You're almost crying as you say it. Hey, do you want to know something else that's in my custom instructions? Because I voice prompt a lot, which I just think it might help some people as well while we're on the subject. Another one is if you hear overly negative or defeatist language from me, do not continue with anything until I have gone for a walk, drunk water, and eaten some broccoli and confirmed with you that I've done it.
Interesting.
So if I go, this effing guy, because I voice prompt, so it's a very natural conversation. It will go, it was a Tony Robbins rule: state, story, strategy. Don't work on your strategy until you've worked on your story, and don't work on your story until you've worked on your state. So it'll literally go, you should probably go for a walk, Pete, and drink some water, because the stories you're telling yourself around these interactions come from a very bad state.
Was it strategy, story, state?
So most people try and, when they're presented with a problem, try and work out what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But your strategies come from your story. What are you telling yourself about what's just happened? And your stories come from your state.
Okay. Oh, so the order is state, story, strategy. That's right. Then you work. So
let's take an example that somebody may or may not be able to relate to. You see your wife or your husband flirting with somebody else. You could tell yourself the story that your marriage is perfectly safe and sound and people get drunk and there's no problem at all. Or you could just tell yourself your story that she's a liar, she's a thief, she's a cheat, she doesn't deserve to be in your life, etc., etc. Fair? Those are two. I mean, there's hundreds, but those are two possibilities. When you look at the underlying state of the person, if the person has meditated, if they've gone for a run, if they're hydrated, if they've slept well, if they've had intimate connection with their partner, if they've played golf recently, they are infinitely more likely to tell themselves the story that everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If they haven't slept and they haven't eaten good food and they haven't drunk water, and they are way more likely to go, can't believe she did that to me, or can't believe he did that to me. So Tony's point was, instead of trying to work out what to do about the problem, well, the problem is just the story you're telling yourself. That's actually the problem. So the first thing to do is not to work out what to do about the problem. The first thing to do is look at your internal state and go, what story am I telling myself? Oh, I'm telling myself this person cheated on me, or this person stole from me, or this person screwed me over. And to go and solve your state first. So it's something that he teaches a lot on: state, story, strategy. So work on your state so that you tell yourself a better story so that you come up with a better strategy. So when I haven't slept enough, Jet is programmed to go, Pete, now is not a good time for you to be trying to fix this because you are going to blow up your world. Take a step back, go and have a nap, drink some water.
That's why I'm trying to get my 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. back to work in my state.
I love the fact that there'll be people in this audience that are listening to this that don't work for themselves that will think that you're being hyperbolic when you say the 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. back. And there are other people that are listening to this going, he's probably not admitting on air that sometimes it's 10 p.m.
I'm not that bad. But there are people listening going, no, you're going to fill it with something else.
Well, I didn't bother calling you on that one. I was like, yeah, of course you will. That's definitely going to be your pick.
That is going to be my challenge. Well, because AI is addictive. That's the problem. And believe me, there's like 5 other business ideas in queue. So
it's not that AI is addictive. It's the fact that doing the things that you've always dreamt of doing and actually having a path to do them is addictive, which is
fine.
The best and worst form of addiction there is.
But it's AI's fault. So there you go.
It's AI's fault, which means it's my fault. So you're welcome.
Yeah, it always comes back to you.
Okay, I'm good with that. My ego likes that. That's good.
Anyway, I think in summation, I think what for me the post really resonated because I think what Cody gave me is permission to stop apologizing for ambition. And I'll add one thing. The hustle means, I think, more when you can point exactly to what you're building. And I love I knew you would come up with something brilliant in this episode to help me and others is that life filter coach, because that'll help quantify and label it, right? The sprint, what it is. For me, Storage Moguls, once it's up and running and it's running, then it's done, and I don't need to. I get to get that life back, and I actually am not going to refill that queue. That's the promise I'm going to make to myself and my family, and it's not going to keep me awake until 1 a.m. And I know, Peter, you're on a similar path with your mastermind and consulting at peterswain.com. And folks, Peter's been consulting on both Storage Moguls and another business of mine, and can't recommend him enough. So peterswain.com. If you're interested in Storage Moguls, if you want to follow along and see what we built, it's storagemoguls.ai. It's launched, essentially. Folks, we're getting some emails in. We appreciate it. They're mostly just gratuitous. Not that we don't appreciate the job well done and keep the show going type of emails, but send us in your questions, what you're having issues with.
Send us a doozy. Send us a hard one. Send us a hard question.
I keep waiting to put Peter on the hot seat. That's what I reeled him into this show with. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. I don't feel like the seat's ever been that hot. And that's on me. So I need your help, folks. All right. So idiots@successfulidiots.com. Send us some doozies. Idiots@successfulidiots.com. For Peter Swain, I'm Joe Downs. We are your Successful Idiots. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.